I'm Mikko Lauronen, and I'm working at Ekahau as the head of product, and been at Ekahau almost 13 years, so pretty long. Although it's not as long as Rene has been using Ekahau, right? So anyway, interesting topic. So today I'm going to be talking about the 6 reasons why site surveys suck, but before I go any further, I kind of need to give you a small disclaimer. So about a month ago, we released a completely new product called Ekahau Sidekick. And before we started developing this Sidekick, we actually did this kind of extreme analysis where we tried to identify what are the most kind of unpleasant things when you're doing site surveys. And so we actually went into very basic things that what sucks in doing site surveys. And yesterday I had a discussion with Nick Turner about these topics, and oh man, so he was absolutely horrified that how can I talk something like this. But really, we need to understand kind of these small things or basic things. What are the most horrible things in doing site surveys, so that we could actually improve the whole site survey process with the Ekahau Sidekick. So please don't take everything exactly completely literally, but try to see through them. All right, so the first one is perhaps the most easiest one, and I promise this is the only time I use this kind of a marketing term. So CROD, choose your own device. So as of today, it is kind of limited, and well, it's surprising to see that there are quite many Mac users nowadays amongst the audience. I wasn't expecting to see this many users, but lots of Windows users. And but anyways, I do believe most of you guys are still somehow running Windows on your Macs. Yeah. And I guess there's a reason why we are doing that, right? So we're gonna be helping with that issue. So most of the essential Wi-Fi tools we gotta use today simply aren't available for any other operating system than Windows, and it's mainly due to the hardware limitations, I believe. And now please don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be ranting about the Windows operating system. And in fact, myself, I am a huge Windows fan, and that's it. I still do like using iPhone and iPads over the Android devices, and for some reason, I just don't like using Mac. Please don't kill me. If we think about why should you even think about kind of care about what I like? Well, you shouldn't, I believe. And in the end, I personally believe that which operating system you like to use, it's just a matter of taste. And we do expect to be able to use the same services and the applications regardless of the operating system we use. And we should be able to use the devices we prefer, no matter is it a laptop, phone, or tablet, just to get the job done. But when it comes to Wi-Fi tools, that's just not possible as of today. It's not reality for us. So we still gotta use Windows and enjoy those random BSODs that we get every now and then. I hope you haven't been getting those too much. And those are mainly because of the network drivers. We don't have these issues on the Mac, but on the Mac we have other issues. The external hardware is pretty limited. And also the same thing with other operating system, iOS and Android. There really isn't any valid hardware options for those operating systems. Sure, there are some, for example, Oscium, great piece of hardware. You should check it out. So how does this Sidekick help with this? The great thing with the Sidekick is that with that, we are operating system independent. So you know, as of today, the House Site Survey for Mac is still in beta. And the main reason is that we cannot provide the same user experience level that we can do on the Windows. But now that we have the Sidekick, yeah, we can take it out of the beta version. So the upcoming ESS 9.1 version will take us out of the beta version. All right. Yeah, multiple USB adapters is regarded as of today. And the time you spend for doing site surveys is somewhat directly in relation to how many USB adapters you have. And so if you have one USB Wi-Fi adapter, such as the NIC 300 adapters, and when you scan all the 2.4 gig and 5 gig channels, scanning through all of those channels takes approximately 4.4 seconds. But it depends on the region. In Europe, it's a bit less. In US, it's a bit more. So now if we think about the average walking speed, I just checked this from Wikipedia, and it seems to be just below 2 meters per second. I've no idea what it's in US units or something like that. But anyways, so this means that if you keep walking your normal walking speed when you're doing the site survey, during one scanning cycle, which is 4.4 seconds, you actually walk 8 meters. And that gives you pretty much the same accuracy. And that's pretty horrible. So, ideally, you should be getting something, you should be getting measurement points, I don't know, 2 to 3 meters or something like that. That should be the accuracy. So now if the scan cycle is the 4.4 seconds, that gives you something like 0.5, 0.7 meters per second speed. So in other words, when you're using just one adapter, and when you're scanning all the channels, that's just super slow. And when you have to walk slowly, that also means that the whole site survey process is just taking a lot of time. And so to be able to survey at an ideal speed, you would need to use multiple USB adapters, ideally 2 or even 3, and adding a couple of USB spectrum analyzers. So now that you have multiple USB adapters, that also means that you're going to need multiple USB ports. And on modern laptops and tablets, the number of USB ports is kind of limited. And well, you might have multiple, but the location of those ports can be a bit problematic. Do you want to attach the adapters on the side of the laptop? When in that case, the risk is that you're going to be striking the adapter against doors or people just going by. So in the end, you will most likely end up using USB hubs when you're doing multi-adapter surveys. And now selecting a high-quality USB adapter, USB hub, becomes a problem. If you go with the USB Trio, you have to be really careful with the model you go, because I hope you guys have heard the USB Trio can cause some severe interference to both 4 gig, introducing a very high noise floor. If you don't know about that, Google Intel USB Trio interference for more information. Naturally, you could also go with the USB 2.0, which doesn't suffer the interference issue. But in that case, finding high-quality USB 2.0 hubs is surprisingly difficult. Those aren't that well available anymore. So, how does the Ekahouse Sidekick help with this? Well, with the Ekahouse Sidekick, you no longer need to worry about having multiple USB adapters and how to power those. Because, the Sidekick is a purpose-built device that includes a couple of NIC adapters and almost kind of a, very fast spectrum analyzer. So in the end, the Sidekick kind of replaces two Wi-Fi USB adapters and the couple USB spectrum analyzers. All right, number 3. Site surveys sucks the laptop battery life, and I believe this is pretty much correct, right? So the site surveys literally suck the life out of your laptop battery. When you're using multiple USB NIC adapters and potentially even a couple of USB spectrum analyzers, the laptop battery drain is simply huge. The typical site survey setup is probably something like 2 NIC 300/Proxim 8494 adapters, and you might add in at least one spectrum analyzer or even potentially a couple of spectrum analyzers. Now, how much do those adapters actually draw power? Well, 2 NIC 300 adapters, they draw 550 milliamps of power. Add in the 2 USB spectrum analyzers, and they take additional 200 milliamps. So together, all of those 4 adapters, they take 750 milliamps. In a third NIC 300 adapter, which is possible, and you get over whopping 1 amp of power. And we need to remember that the USB port is kind of defined to provide 500 milliamps of power. And yet the 2 NIC 300 adapters alone take more than that what the USB port is supposed to be able to provide. And so what happens when the USB port runs out of power? Well, the adapters will start disconnecting. And when the adapters are disconnected, of course, your site survey is interrupted. And this is something we have seen unfortunately, with the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 tablets. Fortunately, that doesn't apply to all units, but we have seen that on way too many units, and you might need to end up tweaking your device to kind of go around that issue. The huge battery drain, also regarded by the additional USB adapters, also quite significantly reduces your laptop's battery life. And during site survey, I guess the typical laptop battery lifetime is something like 2 to 4 hours. I could be wrong. And but naturally depends on the size of your laptop and the battery, and if you're and so what this means is that you kind of need to plan for the recharging process, and you might plan for recharging the laptops during lunch breaks or just during breaks in general. But anyways, in the end, when you're recharging the laptop, that time is always away from doing the actual site survey work. And that thing makes the whole site survey process a bit longer. So, how does Ekahouse Sidekick help you with this? Well, the Sidekick has its own battery, which means that it doesn't draw the battery from the laptop. And then on the other hand, now that it's operating system independent, it doesn't mean that you probably would always need to use Windows or Mac laptop. Perhaps in the future we're going to be seeing other devices which you could use for site surveys, which are a bit less battery hungry. Then Jerry Ola, our technical architect at EKH, he did some highly scientific tests, and where he measured that how long does his MacBook's battery life last. And so he was using 2 NIC 300 adapters and 2 spectrum analyzers, and he got to 4 hours. With the Sidekick, he got to over 6 hours. So there's actually quite significant improvement in that. All right, for this, site surveys are inconvenient. And yet another topic that we discussed about Nick, because I was about to mention that it's physically horrible process, but anyways, I do that. Physically, it's a bit inconvenient, and I believe you know what I'm talking about. Your arms, back, and legs easily just get tired when you're doing the site surveys all day long. Fortunately, you can use a harness or a site survey tray, or how I call it, as the Fene tray. So you might want to check out what he has to offer. But still, I do believe that using those will still get your back and neck sore, and eventually, when you're walking around the site the full day, your feet are gonna be killing you. So, unfortunately, there isn't that much we can do on this topic, or to help this process. It is a bit inconvenient. What we can do is to reduce the weight of all the devices, but not that much. Other option is to get someone else to do the job for you. However, carrying all the heavy weight is not the only problem here. You also need to think about how do you attach all the USB adapters to your laptop, tablet, so that performing site surveys are as simple, as convenient, painless, and secure as possible. What I mean with this is that you kind of need to protect your precious NIC 300/Proxim 8494 adapters, so that when you're site surveying through busy areas, you gotta try to avoid hitting other people, or so that potentially these guys will be kind of bumping against your adapters and so on, or you might be hitting a door frame if you don't pay any attention. And so what's gonna happen in the worst case is you're gonna bust the whole USB adapters and potentially also the USB port of your computer if you don't pay any attention. And something that I'm not quoting Herr Nilsson. It's a very old tweet, but he said it very well, like a year ago, that the Proxim 8494 adapters, they are already on the UN's endangered species list. So please pay attention to those, how you are treating those. You don't really want to break those. So now you might be wondering, how does the Sidekick actually help with this? Well, first of all, the Sidekick is pretty ruggedized, so it's pretty difficult to break the Sidekick, unless you're a kid and somehow you manage to break the USB port. Fortunately, it was one of the first proto units. Anyways.
No pointing fingers.
Exactly. When we are thinking about the weight and today's site survey solution, the Sidekick actually introduces a bit more weight to the whole solution. So the Sidekick weighs a kilo. So in the end, you're gonna have even more weight to carry. But how about in the future? We gotta remember that the device is operating system independent. And maybe in the future, even in the near future, you might be able to use other devices than just Windows or Mac computers. We'll see. All right, number 5, limited spectrum analysis capabilities, and especially during site surveys. Something that I need to be really careful with is so that I don't give you wrong message, right, Nick? Okay, so the transient USB spectrum analyzer sweep time is perhaps not ideal for site surveys, as the time you spend on one location is pretty short, and to be able to perform dual spectrum analysis, you also need to use 2 spectrum analyzers. And because of the time, the limited sweep time during the site service, capturing sufficient amount of data for troubleshooting and analysis purposes is perhaps somewhat impossible. And with this, I mean that during site survey, it is not possible to collect sufficient amount of data so that in the post-analysis phase, you could reliably locate and identify the interference source and how it's impacting onto your network. You probably are able to identify its impact to your noise floor, and you're able to analyze the spectrum channel power after the survey, but you really cannot say what's causing that, and is it anything that you should kind of care about. You might have to go back to the site to actually see that how impactful it is. And the same issue exists when you need to also perform on-spot troubleshooting. You need to spend some time to collect enough data to be able to perform reliable troubleshooting. Well, Eka Sidekick on the other hand has a kick-ass spectrum analyzer, super fast and accurate sweep. So yeah, it's something completely different, and I believe Keith is tomorrow going to be showing how it compares against the current USB spectrum analyzer. Today I'm not going to be showing you on my presentation what it looks like, but you might want to take with me afterwards how it works with ESS. But I do have to mention that as of today, we are not yet capable of doing interference classification. But it is something that we are currently working with and hoping to have it ready soon. All right, the last point, non-standardized measurements. Yeah, the availability of great Wi-Fi USB adapters is nowadays extremely limited, as the Eka 300 USB adapters and or the Proxim 8494 adapters, they simply are no longer available. And those adapters, well, we have replaced the NIC 300 adapter with a USB survey adapter, which is based on the Realtek 802.11ac chipset. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these adapters, but we need to remember that neither the NIC 300 or the new survey adapters, they actually haven't been originally manufactured to be used as a measurement device. How that shows, for example, is the durability. So you can quite easily break those adapters. For example, when you hit them against a door frame, or if you drop them, they could be completely busted. Then on the other hand, these adapters have been manufactured to provide network connectivity. Do you guys think that that they test the RSSI measurement consistency at the factory? Nope. We actually gotta do that at our own lab. So basically this means that there could be huge RSSI measurement variance between the same model adapters. But fortunately, we are able to take the worst units out of before we ship those to our customers. But again, however, as these adapters, they haven't been manufactured durability in mind. In the long run, their measurement accuracy may decrease significantly even unless you treat them very carefully. How about if you purchase those adapters, random adapters from Amazon? Again, do you think that they have been tested at the factory or by the seller that they provide consistent RSSI measurements? Absolutely not. So most likely there's going to be some consistency issues between the adapters. Potentially, we don't know. But by these, I mean that one adapter could be measuring next 65 signal strength, for example, and the other one next 70. And if you are using those together, yeah, you might be having some severe issues. Another issue is that these new AC-based adapters, they don't measure noise reliably. Well, the real-time AC adapters, they do measure noise, but unfortunately it's complete rubbish. And we don't want to give you, we're not going to be providing those measurements to you guys. We need to protect you from bad measurements. So, yeah. Now on the other hand, the Ecohouse Sidekick, it is a purpose-built device, and we have paid significant amount of attention to consistent measurements between the devices and durability, and also the high measurement accuracy, also when it comes to noise measurements. All right, so as a recap, so yeah, number one, choose your own device is kind of limited with the current solution, but with the Ecohouse Sidekick, yeah, we are operating system independent, and eventually you should be able to use whatever device you want, not just Windows or Mac, but potentially other devices. Yeah, multiple USB adapters we got. That's yeah, you just need one Sidekick that replaces actually almost 4 adapters. Sidekick has its own battery, and it doesn't draw the battery from your laptop. The Sidekick is actually pretty convenient to carry. Just plug it to a USB port and go. You don't need to worry about how do you attach the USB adapters. Sidekick has kick-ass spectrum analyzer. We're going to show that tomorrow, at least the latest. And finally, standardized measurements. So what we have, the Sidekicks are always compared against a golden sampler, so that the measurement accuracy is pretty much similar between all the devices. For more information, ecohouse.com/sidekick. Thank you.